For quite some time now, there have been rumblings in the watch world and watch community about Swatch's quick cash grab when it comes to their collaborative watches like the Omega Moon Swatch and the Blancpain. Bringing you words like bioceramic in an attempt to make it seem like it's better than just a plastic toy, they are offering familiar case shapes and name brands for only a few $100s. Now, I personally own the Mission to Earth, and I was happy to go purchase it, but then some things were absolutely glaring once I had it in my hand, and that is just how cheap the watch actually is. How the case feels, the crystal that they put on the outside, the cheap piece of plastic that's covering that dial that scratches so easily that Polywatch is gonna have to be your best friend if you wear this on a daily basis. So the question is, why did I buy another one? Today, the new edition, the Omega Moon Swatch Mission to Moonphase. Welcome to the channel. I'm Chase, and this is All Things Random, mostly watch reviews with some random stuff sprinkled in between. I purchased this watch when I was recently on my honeymoon in Italy. I live in Alaska, and we don't have an authorized dealer for Swatch, so I patiently waited until I was in Rome and visited a Swatch authorized dealer. And I immediately walked in. I looked for it. They don't have it out on display, and I said, I want the white Snoopy Moon Swatch Mission to Moonphase. She said, hold on, I have one in the back. And then the rest is history. I purchased it because I wanted one. And I wanted one not because it was an Omega, right? Because it's not. It's a Moon Swatch, Omega Moon Watch. It's not a true Omega, right? It is a Swatch that's branded in Omega. We all know this. However, I love the history that comes from the Snoopy branding on the Omega watch. My Grail watch is the Omega Silver Snoopy. That's like $27,000. I clearly will probably never own it. A few things would have to happen. One, this YouTube channel would have to explode and then actually create me some revenue. Two, a rich family member in which I don't have would have to die. Or three, some miracle from God would have to land on my desk. So all of that being said, it's not going to happen, so the Silver Snoopy, my Grail watch, is so far in the future, but I love the history behind Snoopy, the command module Charlie Brown from the Apollo 10 mission. Now, if you guys don't know any of the history when it comes to the Apollo missions, the crew used to be able to name their capsules. Now, their last capsules they were able to name was actually Charlie Brown and Snoopy. And then after that, they said, nope, it's going to be this from here on out. I don't know if you guys know this. The way that it all worked was NASA created a program in the Apollo missions that slowly stepped them forward until they landed on the moon. So they would go just a step further, just a little bit more, and do tests through the 10 missions up until Apollo 11 when they actually landed on the moon. Now, the Apollo 10 mission, the entire thing for Apollo 10 was to slightly descend onto the lunar surface, about halfway to the surface, and then ascend back to make sure that the lunar module systems were functioning. Now, NASA was so terrified that the crew of the Apollo 10 would actually just mutiny and want to be the first ones on the moon because they were already descending to the lunar surface, that they decided to only fill the lunar module with half as much fuel, because if the crew decided we're going to be the first ones, then they'd be trapped there on the moon, and the crew knew it. I think that's so fascinating. I just love space. I love history, and I love the fact that the command module was Charlie Brown, the lunar module was Snoopy, and Snoopy from that moment was solidified in history when it came to the Omega Moonwatch. So when I saw that they released the white Mission to Moonphase and it had Snoopy on it and it had the secret message, I had to pick it up, even if it was a little bit more and even if the watch may not be worth it. But to me, I think it truly is. So let's hop into the review of the watch and we'll talk about it at the very end. Now, when you look at the case shape of this watch, it has that classic moon watch design. It has the edging that you'd expect, the case shape, 42 millimeters in case diameter, a case thickness of just over 13 millimeters, and a lot of that has to do with that bubble crystal that you see right there on the watch. Now, they say that this is like Hesselite, like the original Hesselite, but I would argue that it's not. It is about the cheapest piece of plastic they can put on a watch. In fact, I think a piece of Timex glass is probably better. And I say that because, like in the beginning of the video, I explained that on my mission to Earth, I wore it for a week and then suddenly it was hazy. I don't slam my wrists into things. I'm very conscientious when I wear my watches because I have very nice watches and very cheap watches. And I'm very conscious about where my wrist placement is. And then suddenly it's like scratched and I gotta use some poly watch just to clear up the crystal. They could have done a better job when it comes to things like that. That being said, you can see the case is like an Arctic polar white. It is pure white. And the black lettering around the tachymeter looks amazing. The black lettering and indices on the dial, to include the recessed subdials, I think also look amazing. That nice contrast of black and white is a very, very nice, clean pop to the eye. It just looks very, very good. And one of the things that I do love about this watch is the fact that it has a 20 millimeter lug width. That means I'm gonna put a chase strap on at the very end, and I'm gonna choose a color that just looks even better than the strap on the watch. Now let's talk about the strap. A lot of people complain about the strap for the Moon Swatches. In fact, they say it's cheap, it's uncomfortable, and I would have to argue that it is one of the most comfortable straps. It is cheap. It is one of the most comfortable straps I've ever worn, and I love the strap. But the strap at the very end may be just a little bit better if you don't like the original. It does say Speedmaster on the strap, Mission to the Moon, Moon Swatch, same thing you'd see on every single strap. When looking at the dial, you can see that underneath the 12, it does say Omega. Then you see underneath that, it does say Swatch. Over at the 9 o'clock position, it says Speedmaster, and then Moon Swatch just below that subdial at the 2 o'clock position. Now, one of the things that I really do like about how they decided to do the Moonphase is they just took a subdial already on the chronograph and then made it the Moonphase. This keeps the chronograph look of the watch, that classic look of the Speedmaster, except with, of course, that Moonphase at the 2 o'clock. Now, the Moonphase works basically like any other Moonphase, right? It says it has 29 and a half days because that is a lunar cycle and it's printed around the outside. You can see that it has a Snoopy that is laying on the moon. And one of the things that I really do love about this is only under a black light, it's not loomed. Only under a black light does the Moonphase actually shine. Then there is a secret message that's placed there. And that is, I can't sleep without a nightlight. The lume on this watch is minimal and it's not built for ruggedness and durability. This thing only has minimal water resistance, and I really wouldn't jump in a pool if you were wearing it. Now, some of the functionalities of the watch, in case you don't know how to actually use it. So you pull the crown out once, and you can see that the flywheel kind of resets itself, and this is where you can adjust whether or not that center counting seconds is actually like center or it's off. Then you pull it out again. This is the time functionality and also how to change the Moonphase function of the actual watch. So of course, you turn the crown, you rotate the crown either clockwise or counterclockwise, and you can change the time on the watch. Then if you go to, again, that second pusher at the 4 o'clock position and hold it down, you can adjust that Moonphase of the watch so it's appropriate for whatever the Moonphase is. One of the things that I do like about quartz watches and not automatic watches is the quartz watch, when it comes to before you have to replace the battery, is going to last for like 3 to 4 years. So if you have something like a Moonphase, you set it once and you forget about it, and you don't really have to change anything for quite some time. In my opinion, I find this watch quite beautiful. I really do like the white case. I like the white strap, but if the white strap is not for you, then I would put a black NATO strap from Chase Straps, link down below. Shameless plug. But if you look at it on the black strap, you can see that if you like the contrast of the black and white on the dial, then the contrast of the black NATO strap on that white case is even more prevalent, and it even looks, it's so clean on a black strap that I would argue that it is better looking than the original white strap, and it's also not going to get that dirty. The thing about the original white strap is it's going to get dirty. There's nothing you can do about it. One of the things that I don't like about my mission to the moon is I used a little bit of bug spray, because I live in Alaska, to repel some mosquitoes, and all of this rubbed off and smeared, and I was like, what a cheap piece of crap. But of course, that's not going to happen with a chase strap if you want one of my herringbone NATO straps. Now, what do you guys think about this watch? I picked this thing up for €315 in Italy, and I am so happy I did. I haven't worn it because I wanted to get some good, clean macro photography, so it was sitting in its case until I returned back here to the US. Now, I have a lot of videos coming out in the future. I'm gonna try to do a full video every 4 days with some shorts in between, all the way up until the end of the year. I have a lot of stuff here on my desk to review. I have some random stuff also coming down the line. I have some pretty cool stuff that I'm so excited to bring you guys. So make sure you do a few things. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't really cost you anything. Thanks for being around as long as you have. Hit the like button. It really does help the algorithm. Let's push this video out, and hit the notification bell because, again, I want you guys to be notified when I drop these videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.